By the year of 2035, 1.1 million houses need to be built to partially solve the housing problem in the Netherlands. The construction industry on its own, however, is accountable for 11% of the energy and process-related emissions worldwide. Moreover, the daily energy consumption of buildings is accountable for 28% of CO2 emissions, and 40% of the raw materials used worldwide is used by the construction industry. After the Paris Agreement of the United Nations took place, the European Commission has stated very clear goals in the 2030 target plan to reduce CO2 emissions and prevent the world temperature to rise well below 2 degrees. However, besides reducing CO2 emissions, there's also the possibility to extract more CO2 from the atmosphere. In fact, by building with wood and other bio-based materials, CO2 can be withdrawn from the atmosphere for the entire lifetime of the material. In contrast to, for example, expensive storage under the North Sea, with this form of CO2 storage, value can be created in the form of buildings. The construction sector can make an active contribution in this way to the fight against climate change. Due to this potential, in the last couple of years, more and more research is done to research the opportunities of bio-based building materials and how value can be created here. Also, the Ministry of Internal Affairs in the Netherlands is investigating to what account these houses can be built with more bio-based materials grown in the Netherlands. The subject is quite new, however, as can be seen from the publication dates of the articles that have done research into the subject. Therefore, the knowledge of how bio-based construction can be implemented on a large scale in the Netherlands is lacking, and it will take time until the majority of the buildings that are built are partially bio-based. There are quite some bio-based building materials that have great possibilities in the construction industry. Among many others, a study from Wageningen University researched the possibilities for green and circular construction and investigated the potential use of different bio-based materials. Moreover, as already just mentioned, is the Ministry of Internal Affairs doing a lot of research into the potential of bio-based construction in the Netherlands as well. In the report Space for Bio-based Construction, the Ministry has put together a lot of knowledge about chances for bio-based construction, with its potential for, among others, the climate, agriculture, forest, and urban sustainability. Before we start building, however, we should know what we can do with what type of bio-based material. First of all, there is a big problem with old houses, for example, that they are not isolated well. Crops like hemp, flax, and cattail can be used as high-quality isolating materials. Since concrete is an extremely polluting material, as it accounts for 4 to 8% of the CO2 emissions of the world, crops such as miscanthus can be used in concrete to reduce some of its emissions. Wood can be used for the skeleton and frames of houses, and moreover has great potential to be recycled at deconstruction. Straw can be used for roofing. The problem with straw, however, is that the investment costs are extremely high, and the profits for farmers therefore stay negative. Moreover, the quality of straw grown in the Netherlands is low, and therefore most of the straw for roofing comes from China, making it not an interesting crop to be produced in the Netherlands. To grow bio-based crops that can be used for different uses in the construction industry, land is needed. This figure shows how many hectares are needed for the construction and application of bio-based materials in one house. A big problem, however, is the fact that farmers in the Netherlands at this moment are not focused on growing crops such as hemp, cattail, and miscanthus to be used in the construction industry. Even though such crops score better on the levels of biodiversity and other ecosystem services, conventional crops such as potato, grains, and sugar beet have a significantly higher economic value on the current market as it is. The same accounts for the profitability of dairy farms. When looking at the potential of realizing bio-based construction in the Netherlands, one should look at what is already there, what are the opportunities, and what are the challenges that are yet to be overcome. When looking at what is already there, one can identify a few companies already operating in this field. Examples are Biofoam, that produces a bio-based cradle-to-cradle insulation material. LiveLab is developing a tool to calculate the impact of different construction materials to promote bio-based building materials. Biobased Bouwen sums multiple successful projects of bio-based houses built in the Netherlands. For the opportunities, it is clear that bio-based construction can have a great impact on the reduction of the greenhouse gas emissions of the conventional construction industry. Bio-based construction can reduce the 11% of energy and process-related emissions worldwide. It can reduce daily energy consumption of buildings that is accountable for 20% 8% of the CO2 emissions and 40% of the raw materials that is used worldwide by the construction industry. Moreover, the research of Goswine that shows that for the 9.4 billion square meters of walls and roofs that need to be built and renovated in Europe by 2050, Europe has the land available to cover the whole annual demand for straw and wood, showing great opportunities here. Lastly, the new bio-based materials are more fire-resistant, stronger and safer than ever. Prefabrication speeds up the construction process, lowering cost and significantly decreasing the waste, noise, and traffic typical for construction sites. One major challenge that has to be overcome is the profitability of growing bio-based materials compared to conventional agricultural rotations and conventional cattle and dairy farms. A solution could be government subsidies. In Finland, for example, the government wants to promote more bio-based construction and building with wood to reduce the polluting activities of the construction industry in their country. Therefore, they came up with a plan and a subsidy for carbon-neutral construction with a bonus of 25% for wood construction. Depending on the effect this will have on the level of bio-based construction, such a subsidy can be an example for the Dutch government to implement a similar subsidy. Moreover, the emphasis at this moment is put on the supply side of the bio-based materials and not so much on the demand side, while this is also a very important side to investigate. Lastly, there is a problem with current very strict construction laws and rules of the government. To give bio-based constructions a chance, laws and rules should include bio-based construction to not limit companies to only what they know and what is allowed in conventional construction. There is enough proof that bio-based buildings and construction is possible. It can contribute to the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions and aid the fight against climate change. Since the newness of the subject, however, more research should be conducted to investigate the level of sustainability on all the levels of people, planet and profit. Are farmers willing to make the change? How high should the price of the crops or the subsidy be to make a profitable business? What are the total ecological consequences? So enough questions that still have to be answered. But for all things that have to change, we have to start somewhere.